What's up, everyone? My name is Blue, and we are back with some more Entitled Parents posts. It's these parents' world. You just happen to live in it. If you like our channel, please consider subscribing. And with that, let's get into it. Your grandmother made the wraps, so I deserve them. Just remembered this, but it happened a couple of weeks ago. My mother's mother, MM, died a good 15 years ago. She was so sweet and loved to knit and crochet. She taught me the basics of knitting, but nothing more. When my mother was pregnant with me and later my brother, she had made 3 wraps: a white, pink, and a blue one. My mother used them for me and my brother and kept them. When my brother's girlfriend was pregnant with their first, they weren't interested. My mom showed them to me and asked them if I wanted them. I loved them and said I did. Around 4 years ago, a cousin of mine got pregnant. She is the daughter of my father's sister, so no blood relation to my mother's mother. This was around the same time my brother and sister-in-law were expecting their first. My cousin wanted handmade wraps and blankets. My aunt/her mother remembered that my MM did knit and crochet when she was alive, and she remembered that my mother had some wraps. So they called my mom and tell her the good news. My mother congratulated them and asked the usual questions. Then aunt and cousin asked if my mother still had those wraps. My mother confirmed this. Then the gates of hell opened. Cousin then said that she would love to have them. My mother replied that she was keeping them for my future children. They both scoff and indicate that such a thing might not happen for some years. My mother doesn't change her mind. Then, aunt says that she should give them because they are family and this is a family heirloom. My mother was pissed, as during her marriage to my dad, still going strong, they never seemed to respect her. They are never rude to their face, but there were loads of double standards in which my mom always had to do something but not getting the same thing back. She told them that the wraps were indeed family heirlooms, her family to be exact, and hung up. Other aunts called and starting to say and demand she gave up the wraps. My mother didn't budge. She was willing to give a gift, but she was not willing to give these, as she knew how much those wraps meant to me. Then my father was called. My father is a very calm man who doesn't take sides if he is not involved. But he tore every aunt that called a new one about this. As the only living son and very respected member, they listened. They stopped, and I got to use the blue and white wrap for my son. I'm pregnant again, almost 30 weeks. All the family knows. Cousin contacted me through the book face and said that she was pregnant too. Guess where it is going? So I congratulate her and ask the usual questions. She only answers that she is 20 weeks, and then says that she needs and wants the wraps, saying my child will be 10 weeks old by that time and won't need them anymore. My due date is the end of March, hers in May. Taking this into account, I say that she won't need them either. The wraps are warm, and since her due date is in May, it might be too warm already for the wraps. She calls me selfish and that she has a right. I remember her to the fact that she didn't know my mother's mother, and simply because she wants something doesn't mean she gets it. She hurls some other abuse my way before I block her. Her mother is the next to contact me and berates me, telling me that it's her daughter's turn and that I was being selfish. Since I had already guessed that aunt would contact, I had decided to go through their social media. Cousin was showing off a wonderful set of figurines. Nothing too expensive, but still beautiful. On one picture with the caption of, "So proud to have my G-Ma's set." I know this set is from her father's side of the family. So I told Aunt that I wanted that set in exchange. Cue the remarks that I'm a selfish jerk plus more colorful words, and about my audacity to claim that and that it wasn't even from our side of the family. Cue my evil grin and response. Then how in the heck do you have the nerve to demand and claim something that isn't from our side of the family? If you and cousin can demand this from someone who you didn't know and vice versa, who isn't family, then don't be surprised that people take the same path as you do. It has been blissfully silent from those two. My parents had to laugh when I showed them the exchange. I had some aunts call me to ask what happened and if it was really such a problem to just give the raps. I sent screenshots of the conversations and they seemed to agree with me. Too long didn't read. Entitled parents demand some handmade wraps under the guise of family when they aren't technically family of its maker. Throw temper tantrums when they hear no. Geez, if you want handmade wraps that bad, just go on Etsy. There's an entire marketplace for that sort of thing. You don't need to be barking up the tree of someone else's grandmother. Get married and have babies because you owe us grandkids. My parents. I'm a 38-year-old woman. I have a great career, a loving boyfriend of 31, great pets, and friends. I have never, ever wanted kids. 5 years ago, I ended a relationship with a man named Jason, name changed, who I thought wanted the same things that I did. We had been together for 2 years in 2015. We'd travel together, read comics, play video games, and do all kinds of fun things. I had always been honest with Jason that I never wanted kids. He told me he didn't either. Then, in the summer of that year, I began to notice changes in him. He would talk about how great our friends' kids are. He'd try to get me to spend time with his nephews, even though I wasn't close to them. He also began talking to my parents way more than usual. Then, one evening, he said he wanted to have dinner with my whole family. I found this a bit strange as I don't often spend time with my family. But for him, I agreed. We were having dinner. My parents and siblings, my brother and sister, were there. Then he dropped a bomb on me. He got down on one knee and said, "I love you. I want you to be the mother of my children." What the actual F was the first thing that came out of my mouth. We hadn't talked about getting married, much less kids. I never wanted kids and wasn't ready for marriage. I took him to another room and asked him what the hell he was doing. He dropped another bomb and told me he had been talking to my parents about us getting married and starting a family. Let that sink in. He talked to my parents, not me, about our future. He said he had asked my dad's permission. My dad's permission before he asked for my consent. I was furious. All this was obviously meant to pressure me into saying yes. My mother, being nosy, walked right into the room we were in and asked what was wrong and why I had not said yes. I told her and the whole family that they needed to leave. When they left, I tore Jason a new a-hole. I asked him how dare he assume that I was going to marry him and have kids with him when I had made it very clear that I did not want those things. He told me he was hoping that I would grow up and want something meaningful. He had the gall to act like I was the bad person in all of this. I threw him out, and the following day, I ended the relationship for good. My parents were pissed at me. My mom cried about how she had been looking forward to getting grandkids from me and how I had let her down. My siblings, too, told me I had made a huge mistake by letting such a nice guy go. My dad actually told me to apologize to him. Their behavior told me that my desires and consent didn't matter to them one bit. They just wanted me to follow the same life script that they did. Till today, I haven't forgiven them, mostly because they still think that they and my ex were right. My current boyfriend and I have been together for 3 years. He and I share the same passions, and he has had a vasectomy, so I feel much more secure when he says that he doesn't want kids. My parents and siblings are no longer a part of my life. I hardly ever call or see them, and I'm happier for it. I never spoke to Jason again, though he did try to reach out to me. He maintained contact with my parents for some time, hoping that they'd force me to change my mind. I still believe that what he did was scummy, to say the least, but I bear him no ill will, and I hope he's happy. It's a shame that no one just asked OP what she wanted. I feel like all of this could have been avoided. And that's all the time we have today for these Entitled Parents posts. If you liked any of the stories, please click like on the video, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe so you don't miss any more of these stories. Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch you later.